I've had this beautiful plain green linen in my stash for a year. It's a scrap left over from the Heyday dungarees that I made myself last year. There was about 1 metre available and I've been trying to think what I want to do with it. And then with the most recent SewHayleyJane boxes, the idea finally came, and I'm going to make a tote bag using this green linen as the outside, using our Tilly and the Buttons heat transfer that was in the most recent box as well, and then the fat quarters for the lining. So we've got a really fun tote bag project for you today to follow along with. So let's get started. First of all, I've cut out my main pieces. I used a tote bag that I already have just to sort of decide on the measurement. So we've got 40 centimeters across and 43 centimeters lengthways. So I've cut out 2 outside pieces and 2 lining pieces. The fat quarters weren't big enough to use just one for the lining, so I'm having a lot of fun with this project. I've chosen 2 different fat quarters from the most recent collection, so they go really nicely together. So those are the main pieces. Then I thought I would also put a pocket piece on the back. This is just a pocket piece pattern that from the Heyday dungarees. I've just used one of those. So in a minute I'm going to fold over, press and top stitch the top of the pocket, fold in the sides and then attach that to one of the outer pieces. I also think I'm going to add a label just for a little bit of extra fun. I'm going to put that on the pocket. I think I'm going to use this Powered by T label that was designed by the Crafty Pinup. She's not doing this anymore. This was a few years ago. I think this was actually a gift to me, but I've got loads of different labels that I could choose, but I think Powered by T feels like the most apt one for me today. And then we're going to attach the heat transfer to the other outer piece, which is going to become the front of the bag. We're going to prep the straps and then we're going to sew it all together. So let's start with the heat transfer. I definitely recommend doing this before you do your bag. Before you sew it all together, do it on your main piece first. So let's get going. So to start off with, take one of your outer pieces, fold it in half lengthways to find the center of the fabric so that you can get your heat transfer nice and central. Just give it a little press with your hands to make a crease. Open it back up. Take your heat transfer and you want to you can just eyeball this. I'm just going to eyeball it a little bit, but it's kind of central. You know that the center point of your fabric is there. You can also use a tape measure to make sure it's central. Make sure you've got the same amount of fabric either side. So that's just under 14 centimeters that side and just under 14 centimeters that side. So it's perfectly central already. Plug your iron in and set it to a 2-dot setting. So a warm setting, no steam. You can, if you have a Cricut, you can use this. I don't own a Cricut, so I won't be giving you any instructions for how to use that. I'm going to use my iron, so I'm going to go and set that up now. So place your fabric on top of the ironing board, put your vinyl on top of the fabric, and then you want to cover it over with a piece of paper. Ideally something like baking paper or parchment paper, but I'm at my studio and I haven't got those things because I'm unprepared. But I have tested just with a piece of A4 white paper and it works fine. Plug your iron in, set it to a 2-dot setting, and then you're going to press down for 12 seconds and then move along each piece of the vinyl. I'm going to leave that to cool down for a couple of minutes before I take the backing paper off. So I'm just going to move that over to one side. And then we're going to prep the straps and the pocket. So with the straps, take one strap, fold it in half lengthways and give it a press. Once you've pressed all the way along the center, open it back out and turn the raw edges into the middle and press again. Do the same on the other side, press the raw edge into the middle. Finally, press along that original middle crease again and give it another press to create the strap. Then we can top stitch down both long edges of the strap. Do the same with the other strap and then set them to one side. I am all for batching tasks when it comes to sewing, rather than doing a little bit at the iron and then going over to the sewing machine and then doing a bit more at the iron. Do anything that can be done at the ironing board first and then go over to the sewing machine and do all of those bits. Make life easy for yourself. So with the pocket, this is the bottom edge of the pocket I just cut off the corners. So I'm just gonna hem the top edge. So I'm gonna fold it over by 1 centimeter and then by 2.5 centimeters and top stitch that hem down. So typically this is like a bit of a Blue Peter moment. The practice one went perfectly. The actual one needed a little bit of extra heat. So I had a little bit of trouble getting it up in the corners here. So I put a little bit of targeted heat into these bits, let it cool completely, and then in one swift motion, take the backing away, and you finally have your beautiful transfer. It's gorgeous, I love it. The colours are so vibrant and look great on the green. To top stitch the straps and the top of the pocket, I'm going to switch to an edge stitch foot, which is going to help me get a nice straight line. So take the old presser foot off, pop the edge stitch foot in, turn on your sewing machine, and then you want to set your stitch width to 0, like so. Top stitch down both long edges of the straps. You don't need to do the short edges though. Once you've done the top stitching on your straps and the top of your pocket, put the straps to one side and we are going to press in the 3 raw edges of the pocket. You're just going to press them, then we're going to sew on the label. I'm going to put the label in the bottom right corner, and then we are going to top stitch it onto the outer piece of the bag. With the pocket, just press up the 3 raw edges by 1 centimeter. And then fold the bottom corner up to create a little angle there. Pop a pin in just to keep it in place whilst you do the other side. Now we're going to attach our label. So just decide where you want it on your bag. You might want it up the top. I'm going to go down the bottom right corner, and I'm just going to use a bit of washi tape to keep it in place. You can sew over washi tape and then tear it away. So it's really handy for keeping things like labels and zips in place whilst you sew. Although actually with this one, I'm just going to sew down these 2 edges here. So that's just going to keep it in place. But if you have a label where you want to sew around all 4 edges, you can sew over the washi tape and then just rip it off. Once your pocket is all ready, take the washi tape away and we are going to sew it onto the other outer piece. So this is a piece that doesn't have the heat transfer on. This is going to become the back of the bag. Find the center of the bag by folding it together and just make a little crease with your hand, like so. Open it up. Find the center of your pocket as well, just by folding it together. If you like, you can put a pin in the center point. And then line that up with the center crease that you made on the main piece of bag. So it's up to you. I'm going to put it sort of central, but you can have it lower down or higher. Oh, actually, I quite like it lower down. Maybe I'll go lower down. Yeah, I'm going to put it there. Again, you can just eyeball this and then with some pins, just attach it to the main piece of fabric, and then we will top stitch it in place. Once you're happy with that, take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to carry on using the edge stitch foot to get a nice clean line all the way around. Make sure to start with the needle in the down position so that when you come to these corners, you can just lift the presser foot and pivot the fabric. Next up, we are going to baste the straps to the top edge of each of the outer pieces. So take one of your straps. I'm going to line the straps up with the edges of the pocket. So I'm going to take my tape measure, and it is about 9.5 centimeters. So make sure your strap isn't twisted, and then you're going to place it like this along the top edge. Measure 9.5 centimeters and pop a pin in place on that side. Same again on the other strap, and then repeat on the other outside piece with the other strap, baste in place just at 0.5 centimeter. So you can now get rid of your edge stitch foot, put your regular foot back on, and make sure to reset the stitch width. So the usual stitch width on my machine is 3.5, so I put it back to there. And then we'll just baste the straps in place. Okay, now we can start the actual construction of the bag. So take one of your outside pieces, lay it down on your desk right side up. Then take your other outside piece and lay that down right side down on top of the other piece, matching up where the straps are. Pin around the two side edges and the bottom edge, and then stitch in place with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Then you want to take your lining pieces and do the same again. So place them right sides together. Sew along the two long edges, so the side edges, and then along the bottom edge, but you want to leave a 5 centimeter gap for turning through later on, and leave the top edge unstitched completely. Next, you need to make sure that you snip off the bottom corners of the outer pieces and the lining pieces, ready for the next stage, and that will just make sure that you get a nice point in that bottom corner. turn your outer bag right sides out and then just try and tease the corners, the bottom corners out. You can use a point turner if you have one, chopstick, or I tend to just use a pin and just very gently tease the corner out to try and get as nice a press as possible. Okay, we are getting there. The bag is starting to look like a bag. So take your outer piece, keep it right sides out and put it inside your lining piece. So your lining piece remains inside out, and you're going to put the bag inside the lining, matching up the side seams on the top edges. So it starts to look like this. You've got your outside bag on the inside, your lining's there, and we're going to match up the raw edges. Start by matching up the two seam allowances and pin all the way around the top edge. Once you've pinned all the way around the top edge, sew the top edges together. Make sure that your handles are tucked inside the bag. And yeah, just stitch all the way around. I'm going to use a 1 centimeter seam allowance and stitch it in place. Now comes the fun bit, turning the bag through. So find the gap that you left in the lining and pull the whole bag through. This might take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, so just enjoy it, take your time, and it always feels really good and looks really good when it all comes through. Once you've turned through those corners, take it over to the iron, give everything a press, and then come back to your sewing machine and just top stitch that gap closed. You can hand sew it if you want, but because this is the lining, it's going to be inside, I'm just going to top stitch across the gap there. The final stage then is to push the lining inside the bag. Give it a really good press along the top edge, and if you want to, you can also top stitch around the top as well, and your bag is finished. If you can get the lining inside, that is. It doesn't want to go inside. Got there in the end. Push the lining right into the corners down the bottom of your bag. And then I'm going to take it over to the iron. Press this edge nice and flat. I'm going to roll the top edge inside ever so slightly. But there we go. So I'm going to go do that bit and then I'll show you the finished piece all together. Well, this is probably the fanciest tote bag I've ever owned. I am in love. The colours on the transfer pop so much next to the green linen. The lining looks really, really fun as well. I absolutely love it. So, and the pocket on the back. Now you can play around a little bit with this. You can do different shaped pockets. You can add extra labels. You can do an internal pocket with a popper or a zip. You can make the straps a bit thicker. I probably would make the straps a little bit thicker. These may feel a little bit thin maybe, but I still love it. And I can now be totally bougie and walk around the market town and buy some loaves of bread, some groceries, and feel very bougie with my new tote bag. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Let me know in the comments if you're going to give this tutorial a go, or if you already have, or if you've got any other ideas of things that you would like to see from me really soon. Have a lovely, lovely day everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.